In this series on navigating confidence when the pressure is really on.
And it's a big one today.
It is. We're talking about what happens after you've been knocked down. And I mean, really knocked down.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're in that rebuilding phase right now. Maybe it's a layoff or a job search that just feels like it's dragging on forever.
The rejections that just keep coming.
Yeah, the rejections that sting, or, maybe you have a gap on your resume, some kind of complicated past that feels, well, it feels really vulnerable to even talk about. You're probably just exhausted. So we're going right at that. Our core message today is really simple. Your past does not define your future. Where you are right now is not where you have to stay.
It's a chapter.
It's a chapter. And our mission for this deep dive is intensely practical. We're getting into the actual steps you can take to show up strong, prepared, and with dignity, even when you are carrying a lot of doubt.
And we have to talk about that doubt because it's so real. When you face a big professional setback, a job loss, a long gap, there's this natural consequence, this feeling that starts to creep in that something is fundamentally wrong with you.
Oh, absolutely. The professional world can really make you feel that way.
It does. So the first thing, the critical reframe we have to make is this. All those difficult experiences, the rejections, the time away, they are data points.
Data points, not life sentences.
Exactly. They are not life sentences. They're just things that happen. They happen in a specific time, a specific place. They are not the core of who you are as a person. But we confuse the event with our identity, and that is such a dangerous trap.
That distinction is just, it's everything, isn't it? Because when you internalize that failure, it becomes almost impossible to look forward. And we have this idea that successful people just had this smooth, easy path.
It's the opposite. It's almost always the opposite. The people who are the most resilient, the most successful in the long run are the ones who faced real friction. They're the ones who refused to let the hard parts of their story
Become the whole story.
Exactly. They just wouldn't let it. They saw that struggle as raw material, as something to build with. And think about the strengths you get from that. I mean, real resilience, adaptability, the ability to just keep going when things are genuinely hard.
Right.
If you've been through that and you are still here, still showing up, you have those strengths. We have to stop looking at these things as weaknesses to hide. They're assets. They're proof that you're battle-tested.
Okay, so that internal shift is huge. But let's get to where the rubber meets the road. Because feeling resilient inside is one thing, but you still have to explain a 2-year gap on your resume. Or maybe something even more complex, like a legal issue. That's a daunting reality.
It is.
So let's talk strategy. If we want to show up strong, we can't just wing it. Which brings us to what feels like the most foundational step. You have to decide your narrative in advance.
Yes, absolutely. Preparation is not about memorizing a script. It's about taking control of your own story. You just cannot let the first time you try to explain a painful chapter be in that high-pressure interview room.
It's a recipe for disaster. You'll either fumble or overshare or sound apologetic.
All of the above. So when you craft this narrative, we focus on 3 things: clarity, honesty, and the pivot. Clarity is being direct. Honesty is, well, it's acknowledging what happened. And the pivot is the crucial part. It's shifting the conversation from the past to the value you offer right now.
Okay, can you walk us through that? Give us some specifics, because the difference between dwelling on the past and pivoting is everything.
Okay, let's take employment gaps. They're incredibly common now. So a bad narrative, a dwelling narrative sounds like, well, I got laid off and the market was awful and I was kind of depressed for a few months. And
It's too much information.
Way too much. It's all negative emotion. A strong, prepared narrative is brief. For, say, time off for family, you could say something like, I took some time away from the workforce to focus on essential personal priorities. That's it. Acknowledge it.
Clean, simple.
Then you pivot. However, I stayed engaged by following industry trends, I took a few online courses, and I did some volunteer work in my field. I'm fully ready to transition back now and contribute.
That's so effective. It respects the time away, but it shows you never disengaged. So what about something harder, something with more stigma, like a legal issue or even incarceration?
That requires a deep respect for the situation, of course. But the principle of the pivot is even more vital there. You have to be honest, but the focus must be on the growth since then. The goal is not to convince them the past didn't happen.
Right. It's that you're a different person now.
Exactly. So a dignified framing could be, I made mistakes in my past that resulted in time away. I take full accountability for those actions. And then, since then, I've dedicated myself to growth. I've earned certifications in X and Y, and I've prepared myself to be a reliable and productive employee. My focus is on the future and the value I'm ready to bring to this team.
You know, that brings up a really important point. The temptation, when you're being honest, is to over-explain, to over-apologize. How do you stop yourself from doing that, especially if they press you for more details?
Brevity and pivot. That becomes your shield. You give the honest, brief context, and then you firmly redirect. If they press, you stay calm. You don't get defensive. You might say, I understand you need the context, and I've shared what's necessary.
Right.
What I can really show you today is my ability to do skill and my commitment to this team's success.
So you don't take the bait.
You never take the bait. The moment you start making excuses or giving too much personal detail, you lose control. They're not looking for a therapy session. They're looking for a reliable employee. Your job is to show them that.
That idea of control is the perfect segue to the next step. Because having the world's best script means nothing if you panic when you have to say it.
Right.
Which is why we have to talk about the practice mandate.
Hmm.
And I really can't say this enough. You have to practice saying your story, especially the hard parts out loud, again and again. The first time those words leave your mouth cannot be in the interview.
Yeah.
It just can't. The practice is what drains the emotional charge out of it.
That's it, exactly. If you're emotional or apologetic or you visibly flinch when you say it, you just transfer all that discomfort onto the interviewer, and now they're uncomfortable with your history.
Not because of the history itself, but because of your reaction to it.
Precisely. You need to practice until you can deliver that line calmly, clearly, like you're reading an objective fact. Record yourself saying it. Practice with a friend who can ask you tough follow-up questions. Get it to a place where it's just a statement.
When you seem at peace with your own story, you give other people permission to be at peace with it too. It signals that this thing is in the past. It's managed.
And that leads right into the third strategy, which is all about focusing on your future value. We get so hung up on explaining the past that we forget the employer is hiring for the future.
What can you do for them tomorrow?
Tomorrow, exactly. They want to know you're reliable, that you have the skills, that you're committed. Your role isn't to justify every second of your past. It's to overwhelmingly demonstrate your readiness for right now. Sell the future. Don't sell the absence of a past.
You know, let's zoom out for a second and talk about something that can feel almost radical when you're feeling beaten down. The simple act of practicing your story, researching the company, showing up early, dressing professionally, that whole process is an act of self-respect.
It is a profound one.
Because when you've been disappointed over and over, this little voice creeps in. It's the self-protection thing, right? It whispers, hey, it probably won't work out anyway, so, why try too hard?
Oh, that voice is so insidious. If you only give 60%, the rejection stings less. You can tell yourself you didn't really want it.
Exactly. But it's so destructive. The people who actually rebuild their careers are the ones who tell that voice to get lost. They practice anyway. They show up in their best clothes anyway.
And they're not doing it because they're sure they'll get the job. Success is never guaranteed. They're doing it because they deserve to give themselves a real shot.
Yes. They deserve an uncompromised chance. And every time you do that preparation, you're sending a message back to yourself. You're reinforcing this internal script that says, I'm capable, I have value, I'm worth this effort.
And I really want to speak directly to anyone listening who is facing the steepest climb. Maybe you're coming back from a long-term gap or returning from incarceration or trying to break into a field that just feels hostile to any kind of mistake. Please hear this. You are not your biggest mistake. You are not your worst moment. Every single person in that building, from the CEO down, is carrying their own failures and insecurities. You are not uniquely flawed.
Not at all.
But what you do have is an experience that has tested you. You know what it means to struggle and keep going, that grit, that resilience. That is a strength that the right employer will see and value deeply.
That's the real key at the end of the day, isn't it? Your job isn't to convince everyone. It's to find the right fit. The one organization that sees your potential, that sees your resilience as a strength.
Exactly. And you find them by showing up, prepared, genuine, and calm. If one door closes, it wasn't the right one.
Yes.
You learn, you adjust, and you keep showing up as your best self because you have to be ready when the right door finally does open.
So let's just do a quick recap of what we've covered in this deep dive.
Let's do it.
First, we said setbacks are chapters, they're not the whole story. Second, addressing a vulnerable history requires preparation, practice, and a narrative built with dignity that pivots to your future value. And finally, that showing up fully prepared is a powerful act of self-respect. It's how you rebuild your confidence from the inside out. It's you proving your worth to yourself.
Beautifully said.
If you have been through something hard, we really hope this whole series has given you permission to find a kind of grounded confidence, the kind that sees the challenge and prepares anyway. You deserve a real chance.
You do. And if you do have an interview or a big career moment coming up and you feel like you need some tactical, one-on-one support for these high-pressure situations, WRAC Career Services offers comprehensive interview performance coaching. It's designed specifically for these challenges.
You can visit our website for more details on how we can help you turn that nervous energy into a really sharp focus.